Hey y'all, it's Brady. Welcome to my channel and thank you so much for joining me today. I've got a what's for dinner video and it is a super special one because not only am I showing you meals we had this week for dinner at our house, but I am also collaborating with Tiffany from Our Small Town Life. She shares daily vlogs and grocery hauls and what's for dinner videos. She does a fantastic job, so if you don't already know her, you're going to want to check out the description box and go check out her video as soon as you finish watching this one. I know that you're going to love her. So let's jump on into our video today. I'll share with you 3 recipes that I've made over the last week or so. And then I've also got some clips of some things that I've made that I didn't show the process of, but that I made. All right, so this first recipe, I made beef tips with a gravy, and then we made mashed potatoes and green beans and pinto beans, and I had some rolls in the freezer. So all I did is take this beef stew meat, and I've got a Dutch oven. This is a 7-quart, and I used 3 pounds of beef tips because somebody, me, decided to freeze an entire pack of beef tips from Sam's Club. So it's a little over 3 pounds. And so upon reorganizing my freezer, I was like, this has got to get out of here. This whole, I froze it all in one big package, which is never a good idea because this was way too much for our family for one dinner, certainly. So we ate on this for a couple of days, but that's okay. So all I did was put all of that stew meat in a bowl. It's mostly thawed, but some of it is still frozen. And I just kind of coated each piece in some flour. And I've got the Dutch oven hot and over medium heat. I put in a little bit of vegetable oil, canola oil, whatever you want to use. Just a couple of tablespoons. And then I'm going to sear the beef stew meat. Now, you'll see here in a minute that I was planning, and the way I would normally do this is I sear each side of each piece and I pull them out and then I do the next batch. Well, for over 3 pounds of meat, y'all, I got tired of doing that. So you're going to see here in a minute that eventually I just add them all to the pot and just do my best to stir it around and we go from there. And it worked out just fine. The reason you're wanting to sear this is you're getting that thickness from the flour for your gravy, but you're also getting that seared beef flavor, and then you're going to deglaze it with the gravy and water packet. The water and the gravy packet, not water packet. What in the world would that be? But when you do that, you're going to get all those bits off of the bottom and it just locks in a ton of flavor in your gravy. So that's what I did here. And so you'll see in a minute that I just got sick of waiting on it. But if you were doing a smaller version of this, you're only going to need 1 packet of the brown gravy mix, but I'm going to use 2. And then you're probably only going to need 2 cups of water. I used 4. So it just really depends on, what you're using, how much meat you're using, and that sort of thing. So you can see here that it is getting brown. And I'm just going to keep stirring this around. And then here in a minute, like I said, I'm going to get sick of it. And I'm going to dump the whole bowl in. And we're just going to go with it. This was a ton of meat. But hey, it fed a crowd for a few days. So that's all right with me. We used it up. It didn't go to waste. It didn't get freezer burnt. And now I know to remind myself, hey, don't do that again. do not freeze a huge pack of meat from Sam's if you're not going to use it all at one time. And I know better than that. But I guarantee you what happened is I got busy doing something else and didn't break my meat down the same day. So then it was time to put the meat in the freezer before it went bad. So there you go. All right, I've got a couple of pieces of bacon over here in this other skillet or this other pot, and I'm just showing you that there. I've also got beans going. I made these from dry beans. I soaked them the night before, put a ham hock in there the morning of, and several cups of water. And here's back to the beef tips. Now, the reason that I had the bacon going is because we're going to do green beans. So I'll show you me putting that together here in a minute. And here's the rest of those beef tips. This is a 7-quart Dutch oven. This pot is huge. And it definitely is nearly full of meat because of that giant Sam's Club package. But anyways, I guarantee you what happened with that is that I was like, oh crap, we have to freeze this before it goes bad. And so I didn't take the time or didn't have the time to freeze it individually. Okay, back to our green beans. I've got the bacon going here. Once it's mostly done, I add in 1 28-ounce can of, what was this? The Kroger Italian cut green beans. And then I've just got a small, like normal 14.5-ounce can of like kitchen sliced, I think it was Green Giant brand green beans. We're going to throw those in there, stir this all around. Now, I did drain off the water that's in the cans and fill those cans back up just to get some of the sodium off because I'm using bacon there. Well, I don't really like it anyways, but when I add bacon or something to our green beans, I certainly want to get that off. So then we're going to add in some more water here. I think I added in a total of about 2 more cups of water. And then I'll just put the lid on this and let this cook for a couple of hours. And I also add in usually a little bit of garlic powder, maybe a tiny bit of salt, but usually with the bacon, you don't need any salt. And that's as easy as that can be. It just cooked for a couple of hours because when we put our beef tips all together, they cook in the oven for about 4 hours, low and slow. So, you know, you want them tender. You can definitely also do the beef tips in the crock pot, and I have done that, but I was just feeling it, doing it in the oven, in the Dutch oven. So that's what I did there. So our beans are ready to go, or green beans that is. Put the lid on these, let those cook on low heat. Okay, so you can kind of see the brown on the sides there is our flour that has been cooking. Now I have got 2 cups of cold water and 2 packets here for this amount of meat. If you're doing a regular like 1.5 pounds of meat, you're just going to need 1 packet, 1 cup of water, and then add another cup or so of water. And then I'm going to add in about another 2 cups of water to that, just to make sure I had enough gravy and it wasn't too thick. And so that really worked out well for us. And then you'll see here in a minute, I'm going to add some minced garlic, Worcestershire, and some salt, pepper, and seasonings. So I don't measure garlic. This is a huge container of minced garlic from Sam's, and I always have that in my fridge, so I just use that up. Then I have Worcestershire. I'm going to, and I remembered I didn't show you my container from Sam's, so there's the minced garlic and water. And now I'm going to add Worcestershire sauce. Again, I don't measure this, but you're going to want probably 2 tablespoons for 1 to 1.5 pounds of meat, and more like 4 tablespoons or so when you have like 3 or so pounds of meat if you're doubling this recipe like I am. So then you're just going to stir this all together, and you can see it is very hard to move around because, like I said, some of this meat was still a little frozen, plus it's just a ton of meat. But this is kind of the process here, and I went on ahead and turned the heat off because I'm going to be putting this into the oven. Now, I'm also going to add in some salt and pepper, and I may add in some minced onion as well. Yes, I did. So there's the dehydrated minced onion. If you like onion, you could certainly just add in chunks of fresh onion, whatever you have on hand. Onion powder works great, whatever that you would like to use. Now, I am also using fresh ground pepper and fresh ground Himalayan pink sea salt in a moment. You can just use whatever salt you have on hand, whatever pepper you have on hand. It does not matter. Now, I use the reduced sodium gravy packets, which makes me feel a little bit better about controlling the salt myself, but always taste things, and, you know, after you check it about halfway, you can decide if it needs more salt. Always err on the side of caution with salt, and then add to it, because obviously you can add more, but you can't take it away. So that's what I'm doing here. My salt, my pepper, my minced onion, stirring this all up, and then we'll put the lid on it. And I'm putting this in a 300-degree oven for 2 hours. And at the 2-hour mark, we will pull it out, stir it up, and check on it, and then probably cook it another hour or 2. Here is my fabulous husband helping me out put this in the oven. And with the magic of YouTube, we are pulling this back out after 2 hours. Don't you mind my dirty oven. Don't you judge me. Okay. And couldn't find a trivet, so we're using a towel. Ooh, look at those. So this is after 2 hours. I'm going to stir this up, And yep, I've got dirty dishes. Need to get those washed up. But that is it after about 2 hours. We're going to put these back in the oven, and then I'll show you the finished product when I make our plate. So you can see it is tender, but yeah. But I'm deciding that I wanted to cook it a little bit longer, so I did that. And again, so for about these 3.5 pounds of beef tips, we cooked it at 300 for 4 hours. But you can definitely go longer than that. Okay, everything is done, so let me share with you. There's our pinto beans. I fried up the rest of the bacon that was in that pack because we had thawed it from frozen. And we're just going to use that for bacon bits, whatever we need this week. There's those rolls. I just threw those in the oven and warmed those up. There's our beef tips, all nice and done. Lovely gravy. And I thought I had potatoes, but I didn't. So, hello, Idahoan instant mashed potatoes. We made those. And there's a look at our plate. Well, my husband's plate for dinner. We had the pinto beans, the mashed potatoes, and he wanted his mashed potatoes with the gravy and beef tips on top. Okay, next meal. I made chicken tacos on corn tortillas, and I'm just showing you here that I have a dry skillet on medium heat, and I'm heating up tortillas. Once those are done, I'll use this same skillet and add a little bit of oil, and we'll cook up our chicken. And then I have shredded lettuce and cilantro and everything already ready to go. So this is a super quick and easy. And I was smart because you see this chicken here in this skillet. Yes, I actually remembered to dice that up beforehand when I froze it. So I was able to just thaw that chicken out that morning and then dump that in the skillet here with a little bit of oil. And this is about 2 pounds of meat because I wanted leftovers for lunches. And this is the Tone's cilantro lime seasoning. I get it from Sam's Club, but you can get it at regular grocery stores as well. And it already does have salt and pepper in it, so I don't add much else to it. But this makes a really delicious chicken taco, and it's quick and easy, especially when I actually remember to chop that up before I put the chicken in the freezer, because that made this an even quicker dinner with less cleanup, and yeah, that's always good in my book. So that's a tip there. Freeze your meat in the way that you would already use it, so that when you pull it out, you don't even have to trim it or cut it or any of that sort of stuff. Just remember to label it. Okay, chicken's all done. So here's a look at the shredded lettuce, the cilantro. There's our warm tortillas. We've got some leftover taco sauce, sour cream, Mexican cheese blend, and of course, lime wedges. So there's a look at my husband's plate with his tacos. And y'all, these are incredible, and they are just so delicious. This was really good on one of those hot days. All right, so I have got my stuff together here. I've got this is my big crock pot, never you mind the dust. It had to be stored on top of the cabinets. Anyways, the large crock pot here, I've got it heating up, and don't come at me about the liner, but we're using it today, and it is what it is. Anyways, so I've got a really large chuck roast in here. It is still frozen, so I am not going to add my potatoes and everything to this yet, but I'm making Mississippi pot roast. I do not add a full stick of butter like the original recipe that I saw does. That's just, I don't see a need for it. So, and I'm actually going to wait to add any broth or water to this also until I kind of see how this is defrosting. So anyways, for this recipe though, you're going to need a chuck roast, butter. I use Worcestershire and sauce and garlic, like minced garlic. That's not in the original recipe either, but it's kind of my twist on it. Then you need peppercini peppers, au jus gravy mix, and powdered ranch dressing mix. So here's the ranch. I'm just going to go ahead and throw this in. And actually, it calls for 1 pack. I've got the big container from Sam's. So it's 3 tablespoons is 1 pack. So 3 tablespoons is 1 pack. I'm going to go ahead and put that in now. But since this is such a large roast, when I add my potatoes and onions, I will probably add a little bit more as well. And then in with the Worcestershire, and I do not measure this. I just kind of shake it and coat all of it. And that's like probably 1/3 of a stick of butter. I would say maybe 3 or 4, maybe 3 tablespoons of salted butter. And then this is the minced garlic. I'm not measuring that either. I guess technically this is a 1/2 tablespoon. And I'm probably adding in 4, so there's that. And then here's our au jus mix, and I've got to still go grab my pepperoncinis out of the fridge. Depends on how much of a kick you'd like for this to have, is how many you put in, all that good stuff. And I'm sure that since this recipe has been circulating online and in videos and Pinterest and everything else for like 8 million years now, you've probably already tried it. But if not, and you like roast, you should definitely give this a try. It really elevates a good old chuck roast. Anyways, I'm gonna grab my pepperoncinis, and then I'll show you what it looks like when I put those in, and I'll tell you how many I put in for this size roast. I think this is probably a little over 3 pounds. Like I said, it is frozen, and this is my large 7-quart crock pot, if that shows you how big it is. All right, and I've got about 1/2 of a small jar of pepperoncinis, and I think I'm gonna add pretty much all of that to mine, because this is a large roast. And then keep in mind, there's also going to be potatoes and carrots that go in there. So anyways, I added the juice and everything, in 1/2 jar. 1/2 jar of juice, 1/2 jar of pepperoncini peppers, and we should be good to go. I'm going to put the lid on this. I've got this on low because it's frozen, and it is going to take a while. I might, because of that, I might bump it up to high. We'll see. It is currently 8:17 in the morning, so we have plenty of time before dinner to get this nice and cooked through. All right, so it is now 1:10 in the afternoon, so it's been roughly 5 hours. So roughly 5 hours. I have chopped up about 3/4, I actually quartered it, so it is 3/4, of a white onion. I just peeled it, quartered it, and then pulled the layers apart. And I added 3/4 of that in here, as well as 2 large russet potatoes. I was going to do some of those dynamic duo potatoes, but the ones that I had left, those little bitty baby potatoes, those that I had left were rotten, so past the point of saving them. So I just washed up 2 large russet potatoes, and then I halved and quartered them, and then just sliced them into, you know, roughly 1-inch piece thick. And then I added a little bit more ranch seasoning powder to the top of those. I did not add any water or broth, because I guess I should have showed you that already, but it has made its own with it being frozen. So that's why I waited, because I had a feeling it would do that. I will check on this in about an hour, and if it looks like it needs some moisture, then I'll add some. But if you don't add much liquid, you'll get a really nice, like, gravy consistency with that au jus packet being in there. But anyways, so I added probably 1.5 tablespoons sprinkled across all the veggies on top. I'm out of carrots. I thought I had some. I don't. So we're just doing potatoes and onions, and I'll do some green beans on the side, or some cabbage. I don't know. We'll see what I end up cooking up. Anyways, and then I also added some garlic powder to the top of that, since they're not down in there with the garlic yet. And then I am going to add some more Worcestershire. I'm going to beat my wall with the Worcestershire, apparently. But I'm going to add a little bit more Worcestershire sauce, and I'll probably go ahead and crank this up to high. It's been on low for 5 hours, so we'll do the next hour or 2 on high and just see how it's looking. Again, it's only 1:10, so we have plenty of time to get this done. So yeah, we're just now eating lunch. So we usually eat dinner somewhere between 5 and 6. 5 is my goal, but sometimes it's closer to 6. But anyways, we still have 4 hours even if we want to eat at 5. So I think we're good. I'm just gonna cover this back up and let this go. All right, so here is a look at it all completed. It was super tender and delicious. delicious, soft, and tender potatoes, and the meat was super tender as well. It was incredible. Such a hit around here. We love Mississippi pot roast. And never you mind my burnt rolls, but we did some Sister Schubert rolls on the side. And here is a look at my husband's plate. He's got a little bit of everything, including those pepperoncinis. He said he could just do the broth and pepperoncinis and he'd be happy. I was like, I don't know about that, but they are delicious. So this was a huge hit. It definitely made a ton, so we ate for several meals off of this. But again, it was delicious and it was super simple to throw it all in the crock pot. Okay. Right, so that's the last of what I've got to share with you step by step, but I thought I'd share some other meals that we've had with you. So one night we ordered some takeout and got a local taco shop delivered. And then another night I made some steaks on the stove in a skillet, and the girls just had some chicken tenders in the air fryer with some fries and fruit. And then I also baked my husband and myself some baked potatoes, loaded those up. We had a delicious side salad. These are actually pretty large salads. And then we also had some homemade ranch with those. And then on Father's Day, this was the meal that my husband requested, was lasagna. And I do have a video coming soon where I show you step by step my homemade lasagna with a bechamel sauce. But I also made this homemade garlic cheese bread. There's a look at the lasagna, and then I'll show you my husband's plate. And we also had salad with this as well. Fresh mozzarella in this lasagna with some homemade garlic cheese bread, salads, and ranch, and it was delicious. Okay, and another night, super quick and simple, we had made a cheese sauce from TikTok and then just put some taco meat and the cheese sauce and everything on top of some chips, and that was an easy dinner. Thank y'all so much for joining me, and I will see you in the comments below until my next video.